Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, how was your weekend, Carrie?
It's been good. I mean, I got some trees up. I kind of go overboard for Christmas here. I got 2 trees up, but um,
Do you
had a
do
little.
trees every year?
Pardon?
Do you do do you do 2 trees every year?
Well, I usually do 3, but I had to stop. I had to stop after the second one because I fell off the ladder.
You told me that, but that's such a shock. How are
Yeah,
you feeling?
I'm very sore. I feel like I've been training for Ironman or Iron Woman competition. So just, but no, I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Oh,
Nothing broke, but I'm
good.
kind of at the very tip top of a 6-foot ladder. And anyway,
No, you're not supposed to be at the tippy top.
I know now. I know, and there's somewhere they say don't do that, but
Right.
I
Somewhere.
don't read the directions for anything. I figure it out as I go.
That
So,
is so funny.
how's your weekend been? I see a tree behind you.
Yeah. So I went to a local tree farm today and got my Christmas tree that doesn't have any lights on it. It's not decorated yet, but
But
we'll
it
be doing
smells
that next
wonderful.
weekend because I've got to work all week. But next weekend I'll be decorating, and so it'll be more Christmassy in here for our next stream.
Nice. Does
Yeah,
does your cat like the tree?
he doesn't care. But my new dog Oliver
Oh
is. I'm more worried about him pulling the tree down than the cat.
oh no! Oh no! Well, he's a puppy.
Yes,
Well, yeah,
yes, he is. He is. He's so adorable.
he is.
So, welcome to Questions Worth Pondering. Our topic for today is why are big investment companies buying up single family homes? We're going to ask who and then why. So, let's start out with who. Who's buying up the single family homes, Gary?
We can start with Wall Street right
Yeah.
off the top. I mean, consider that in the first quarter of 2022, investors made up 33% of all home sales in Atlanta, 32% in Jacksonville, another 32% in Charlotte, 29% in Phoenix, 28% in Miami. Just the first quarter this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you've got Invitation Homes, right? I mean, that's a $21 billion publicly traded company that operates in 16 cities. The biggest one is Atlanta.
Mhm.
Atlanta is a big target. So they've got a $16 billion portfolio worth of homes,
Mhm.
and they're collecting almost $2 billion a year in rent.
You know, a lot of these folks are, and we're going to show a video on Redfin chief economist. Her name is Daryl Fairweather. And she talks about investors buying 30% of the homes right now, depending on the location, right? So, like Florida and some of the southern states are higher. But we have a clip of this Canadian company
Mhm.
buying up U.S. homes from Canada. So, why don't I play that clip real quick, and then we can continue talking about the investors buying those up. So, let's look at this clip.
Berman is CEO of Tricon Residential, a Toronto-based company that has quietly become one of the largest owners of single-family homes in the United States.
So today, we own about 30,000 single-family rental homes across the U.S., largely in the Sun Belt, and we've got probably about 75,000 people living in our homes.
Tricon is trying to buy 800 houses a month, and there are companies even bigger. Invitation Homes owns more than 80,000 rental houses. American Homes for Rent close to 60,000. Some of the all-stars of finance, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Blackstone, have put hundreds of millions of dollars into these companies.
I would say probably a third of the listings that I'm putting up are getting investor offers.
I have another clip actually that talks more about this and how the investors, have an advantage over us regular individuals vying to buy a home. I actually feel very fortunate that I own my home. But let me go ahead and play this clip. It talks about more about Wall Street buying up homes.
Up around 12% nationally and way higher in certain areas. Now, This is happening in part because companies are buying up all the housing to turn them into rentals because you will own nothing and be happy. Two ventures backed by Goldman Sachs just bought an entire community in Florida for $75 million. In places like Phoenix and Jacksonville, investors are buying up starter homes. Katrina Campins is the founder of the Campins Company. She is a longtime expert in residential real estate and joins us tonight. Katrina, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks.
So is this as big a problem as it appears to be for people who just want to own a home?
Home ownership, Tucker, has been a pillar to the American dream for a very long time because of the various different economic benefits that come with it, especially the accumulation of wealth through building equity, reducing the housing cost, and accessing credit, not to mention the tax deduction incentives that you have. In addition to that, the stability and the accumulation of wealth that's attained through home ownership has been the primary mechanism through which the American people have been able to achieve social economic mobility for themselves and for their children. And that's all being challenged right now because they're competing with Wall Street. They're competing with unlimited capital, chasing very low supply. And these investors are paying cash, they're paying over asking price. Many times we're waiving inspections and they're closing very quickly. And it is impossible for the American people to compete against that.
So it's as bad as we thought. Katrina, I appreciate your coming on tonight. Thank you for that.
Thanks for having me, Tucker.
So all businesses are in trouble.
So really interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting that these investment firms are buying this stuff up. And one of the things they also do is rent to buy options for people who can't purchase a home. Maybe they don't have the credit, just like what was mentioned in that last clip. And one of those companies that offer, like rent to buy is Home Partners. And based off of a report in the Financial Times, we've got an article here. And I just want to make a very quick comment. I'm not going to be reading these articles. We are going to do a companion Substack for this podcast, and all of our sauce and receipts will be in there. So, but there's a Financial Times article about the rent to buy market, and they do talk about that Home Partners, only 1 in 5 people successfully actually become homeowners that join that program. So that means 80% are not successful, which is really sad.
It is. And that's how a company like Blackstone, the world's largest private equity company, is now considered America's largest landlord. They have $915 billion in assets under management, and $280 billion are now invested in real estate.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And so the Home Partners that I was mentioning for the rent to buy market, before Blackstone bought them out, BlackRock was the largest investment firm in Home Partners. And if you haven't heard of BlackRock, we're going to go into more detail in another podcast. So the next question then is why? Why are they buying up single family homes? There's a couple different opinions on that. Let me play this first clip.
Pretty much universally true. Rents are going up all around the country, but it's even more severe in migration destinations like the Sun Belt of the country, Austin, Phoenix, Florida. A lot of people are moving there and there's just more demand for rents.
Daryl Fairweather is the chief economist at Redfin, a nationwide real estate brokerage firm that pulls together real-time statistics on both the sales and rental markets. For example, their numbers show that rents increased 31% in Jacksonville last year, 40% in Austin, Texas.
What's causing this?
We are not building enough housing for everybody who needs a place to live. We built fewer homes in the 2010s than in any decade going back to the 1960s. And at the same time, millennials are the biggest generation and they're entering into home buying age. Millennials aren't living in their parents' basement anymore or shacking up with roommates. They want a place of their own. And we didn't build any housing for them in the last decade because we are still so traumatized by the last housing crisis. We didn't put any investment into housing.
In the economic crisis of 2008 and 9, construction of new housing came to a grinding halt. But even when the economy recovered, home construction didn't.
So how big is the rental shortage in the United States?
The government has estimated that we are short about 4 million homes in this country, and that number is likely growing, especially since the pandemic.
4 million shy.
Yes. That's the hole that we're in that we need to build ourselves out of.
That number, 4 million, is that mainly in the South and Southwest, or does that include New York City and San Francisco?
That's the entire country.
It's interesting that she mentions the global financial crisis and they stopped building homes after that. Well, that's because everybody lost their homes. And it was a lot of these same characters that are buying up the homes now. They actually started buying them up in 2010, which was shortly after that crisis that almost took out the entire global economy, except we bailed them out. And only, it's interesting, one person went to jail for mismarking bonds to hide losses. A lot of people did that. But anyway,
I haven't heard about that one. We'll have to talk about that one later.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story, but it's interesting. So they started in 2010. And so she is right, but it's multifaceted assault on the American family. That's how I see it.
Yeah. I mean, they said that home building came to a grinding halt, but I don't know. At least in Minnesota, I've seen home building increase exponentially since then. So I'm not seeing it, at least where I live. I'd be really curious if anybody sees this and if you see that home building is being halted or not. It was in the last 10 years.
In 2010 is, I think, really what she was saying, like right after.
She said since 2010. Yep.
Oh, okay. Because I mean, the building in Texas is just out of control.
Well, and Texas is one of the places they mentioned that people want to move to.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's built.
Minnesota's not. You know, I'm in Minnesota. Who wants to come here?
Beautiful there. Cold.
I have to apologize to my Minnesota neighbors here. I love Minnesota, actually. I love the change of seasons. And it is beautiful. Yeah. So, but it's interesting that they say that the home building has stopped. I haven't seen it stop. But if it has, is it really from the economic downturn from 2009 on, or is it intentional? Like, you see what happened with like all the prices and the shipping and all of that. I just question that. And here comes like, I don't even think it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's just, there is a conspiracy. I have another clip I'm going to play, but I do want to set this one up real quick just to explain to folks who might not be familiar. So there is the World Economic Forum. If you haven't heard about it, we'll put a link in Substack. But they have two initiatives, the 2030 initiative and the Great Reset. And the goals of those are to have like a one world government. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's actually true. And all the global leaders go to the World Economic Forum every year. But there's one clip that's interesting to me that I think is related to the housing market. And that is their predictions for the world in 2030, their 2030 initiative. Let me just play this real quick and then we'll chat about it.
Okay.
Wall Street would see an opportunity. buying modest single-family houses.
I'm actually going to stop it there. Basically, because this is actually a montage that I did with 60 Minutes, which we already saw that clip. But basically, that is World Economic Forum's video that talks about their 8 predictions of what the world will be like in 2030 and what they're striving for.
They're
And
very open about it.
they're very open about it. They say you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
But someone owns it. If we're renting everything, someone owns it.
Well, yeah. And
We
for
know who.
me, they have this ideal about people not owning anything.
Mhm.
And for me, I just think ownership is important for people. It provides security, privacy, and gives people a sense of accomplishment.
Mhm. And
It's like, what are you working toward if you can't own anything?
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I do know in some of those clips too, they talk about that most of what's happening is from people migrating to other states because of remote work is more popular now. People can live wherever they want, so now they want to go to the Sunbelt states. And they talk about that in some of these articles that we'll be linking. But there's an article about Massachusetts,
Mm-hmm.
and Massachusetts has seen corporate purchases double in 10 years from investment firms and corporations, and local folks are getting priced out. I actually thought I had, there it is. So there's an article on this that we'll link in our Substack, but this is about Massachusetts. So it's not just the Sunbelt states.
No, it's also in the Northwest.
Yep.
They actually call some of them Zoom towns.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's the big tech, remote workers with big incomes that are moving into beautiful locations. They don't want to live in the city.
Mhm.
And local residents are being kept out of home buying because the prices are being raised.
Yeah.
In some cases, they're losing their homes.
That's so sad.
Pardon?
I just said it's so sad. A lot of people are being forced into rentals,
Mhm.
and it's interesting. So I'm not going to read through this article, but I just found it interesting. They talk about that, but actually it's happening all over the country. This happens to be a chart from, can you see it, or should I make it bigger?
Yeah, a
Is
little
that
bit.
good?
There
Is
you
that
go.
good?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a chart that shows single family. 2 family just means like a townhouse, or 3 or more. So if you have like a quadruple, or you've got apartments.
Mhm.
But this is what people now, if you look, more investors are buying single family homes than they're buying multifamily.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
And the focus is at the entry level, which is about 300,000.
Yep.
And so those are the people that they're being hit the hardest.
But if you look, this is kind of interesting. So if you look, it starts at 2016.
Mhm.
Look at how it skyrocketed in 2021.
Mhm.
Why? And it just so happens to be right after COVID hit.
Mhm.
Investors started buying up homes. Why? It's a question worth pondering. I don't know that we'll answer that.
It
But
is indeed.
so
Coordinated, perhaps,
yeah.
by design.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, and everybody's getting in on it. I mean, we have, Jeff Bezos now.
Oh, that's perfect timing.
Okay.
That's my next tab. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. He's starting to get in on the action. I mean, these billionaires are seeing that it's profitable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He just bought Arrived Homes, which manages homes while investors collect their quarterly dividends. And in that scenario, you can actually invest in a home and and just make money quarterly. But the point is that it's still depriving people from owning that home.
Exactly.
That's what they're doing with it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So it gets them toward their 2030 agenda, right?
Yeah.
So, and then JP Morgan Chase also, they formed a joint venture for rental houses.
Yeah. Haven Realty Capital.
Yep.
Just this month in like November 15th. So and Haven already has a portfolio of about 3,500 homes, and they're planning on, expanding obviously. But what is it? It's 450 million is what they're going to do right away to acquire 2,500 more homes.
Yeah. Wow.
And they like them clustered in neighborhoods because they're easier to manage. So they prefer just to buy, like Tucker mentioned, an entire neighborhood.
Yep. Also, if construction does a whole new development, they're buying up the whole development too.
Yeah.
Before anybody else can, as an individual, can put an offer down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think it's by design. I actually have another clip that talks about that, how mortgage rates are up and how it could be by design. Let me pull that clip up real quick.
Metric. Well, interest rates are now also soaring. We have mortgage rates at 10-year highs. And what that has created is a situation where you have at the same time the cost of financing a home is rising dramatically and the list prices of homes rising dramatically. Steve, that's unusual because normally one will temper the other. If you have rates rising dramatically, it will act as a cooling effect upon house prices. That's not going on right now because we are, I believe, beginning an inflationary super cycle. And so what you have right now is the list price is galloping higher. At the same time, the price of financing it is getting beyond the reach of many Americans. Think of how many Americans just this year, Steve, that chalk talk I did there, I'm talking since this January, okay? So just in the last few months, the cost of owning a regular home, nothing palatial, nothing luxurious, of owning a regular home in the United States for those who are fortunate enough to have the down payment in the first place, and that's a shrinking pool of people. But if they had that down payment in the first place, an extra $400 every single month. Think of how many working class people, how many young people, how many aspirational strivers out there have now been priced out of home ownership by the policies of Joe Biden. This is a created crisis, and he is slamming the door shut on home ownership. And here's the thing, Steve. I wish I could say that this is all just, bad policy choices and all just an accident, but I'm not so sure about that because I'm going to be really cynical here and say that, you know what? The Davos set, the ruling class, the BlackRocks of the world who are now deeply involved in individual housing in the United States, single family home residences in the United States, they might be just fine with the way things are panning out right now. And this may be very much by design that they want and they are pursuing with abandon a society of serfs rather than an ownership society where economic and political power is diffused throughout a free republic.
Okay.
So
hey, he's saying it like that, and it sounds pretty wild, but it's go to the World Economic Forum's website, and it's all there.
Yep.
So,
yeah, as a matter of fact, so he mentioned Davos, he mentioned BlackRock, some of those that we talked about already. And one of the things that the mainstream news, the mainstream magazines and whatnot, they try to convince you how great it is to rent and how you're a bad person if you want to become a homeowner.
Yeah. Yeah, they're chiming in with propaganda. It's like, why is better to rent than own? That was in the Atlantic.
And not only that, well, this is off Guardian, but look at what they say here. Becoming a nation of renters is clearly a big part of, look at this, new normal.
No, thank you.
So they talked, like, they're using that term, the new normal, for like COVID. Now they're talking about the new normal for like, you're not going to own, you're going to rent. It's just,
and they're saying things like, why buying a home makes you a bad person.
Yep.
And all the reasons they list of why buying a home is a terrible idea. So
Mhm.
they have their media spokespeople putting out this message as well.
It's very true. And it's not just single family homes. So there's a lot going on besides big investment firms buying up these homes. Our land is being bought up.
Yeah.
Bill Gates is buying up hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland. China is buying up our land.
Mm-hmm.
How much of our land is owned by China? I would really like to know that. That's a question worth pondering.
It
I think.
is, and it'd be interesting if we could figure that out, if the information and.
Yeah, well, and why do we allow corporations in other countries to purchase real estate or land, period? Like that Canadian company should not be able to purchase U.S. properties. China should not be able to purchase U.S. properties. Bill Gates Foundation, because it's an organization, should not be able to purchase farmland. I don't know what we can do, but I feel like we need to get like ownership of all the land back to the people. The people need to be able to own land. And that's how our country was founded. And
It is. And they're trying to displace the American people. Put us in rentals. It's just so wrong. At the core, it is so wrong.
It really is. And not only that, when people started bringing this up, which was a little, I think back in March, people were questioning it. And what I notice is the news will make fun of people questioning it, or big social media will fact check people asking about it. As a matter of fact, Twitter did that. And I actually took a screenshot of their trends back then in March, and they've got a fact check. Bill Gates owns less than 1% of farmland in the US, fact checkers say. Well, the thing of it is can you imagine anyone owning almost 1% of our farmland, considering the millions of acres?
Yeah.
Bill Gates owns 270,000 acres, more than that. And if any one person owns even 1%, that's too much, because that would mean if somebody's got 1%, that means there's 99% out there. Imagine only 100 people owning all the land in America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you think of it that way, the fact checkers are like trying to make it sound like it's not a big deal, that he doesn't, anyone, he owns less than 1%.
It's a good point.
Now, if they said he owns less than 0.01%, then, let's talk about that. But he owns a lot. It is a lot.
And what is he doing with it? What are his plans? I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, I think, because.
I think so, because I just recently read, and it's not in our Substack, and I didn't plan for this to talk about this, but I just recently read an article about North Dakota has laws against corporations buying up land, but somehow Bill Gates, and I didn't dig into it enough.
Oh, I remember that.
Remember that. Somehow Bill Gates got approval to purchase a bunch of land.
I remember that.
I do kind of want to dig into that a little bit, but I didn't. So anyway, so let's go ahead and move on. Let me unshare that. So Blackstone, we talked about Blackstone. They're also buying up not just homes, but student housing, office buildings, Hollywood studios, warehouses, biotech lab spaces. Why do they need to buy that? And multifamily, which we already covered. So, but it's not just houses. I mean, part of the World Economic Forum's plans for 2030 includes planning for people to own absolutely nothing.
It's all about control. They want control. They try to do it with the vaccine passport. It's all about, it's like a digital leash with our homes.
Yeah, and they want us to rent everything, everyday things, tools, they spin it as a positive, like less waste, no debt. You don't have to get into debt. I actually have a clip on that, and then let's close it up with what we can do about it.
Okay.
Because I do think there are some solutions, and I would love to hear from other people what their solutions are. But let's talk about these this World Economic Forum renting everything.
I can't hear you. There's
In 50 years,
there you go.
you'll own nothing.
They'll own it all, is what it is. They shouldn't
Yeah.
say you'll own nothing, you'll be happy. They'll say we'll own everything and we'll be happy, and we don't really care about you, because that's the truth.
So yeah, it's unbelievable. But I do think there are a few things. We don't want to let the global agenda to control our lives. So what can we do to stop it? What I'll talk about homeowners, because I actually have some personal experience. Some homeowners are creating new rules with their HOAs. So homeowners associations, to limit the number of homes that can be rented out. And they're taking other actions too, but literally in the bylaws. And this is where I have experience. So when I first bought my home back in 2007, I joined the board. I became the president of the board. And we reviewed and updated the bylaws, because these were actually just newly built. So the developer was the HOA. So we were starting brand new HOA.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and we put that in there. I don't remember how many, but I think 2 might be the max of how many units in my little neighborhood can be rented out. We have like 40 homes here.
That's a great way to go about it.
Yeah.
HOA,
And
they love having all that power anyway, so let them do something good for the community.
well, I think that's a great solution. So people, if you do own your home and you're in an HOA, please go to your HOA meetings, propose this, read your bylaws, see if it's in there. If it's not in there, or join the board and push for bylaw updates. It's I think that's one huge way that this can be alleviated for existing homes. So that's one thing that I think we can do. And that's getting involved in your local community, right? Join your HOA board, or at least attend the meetings and vote.
And we can also find out who's actually making offers on our homes.
Yes. Do you know my neighbor? She sold her home last year, and I said, "Can you make sure that you sell to a private individual and you don't sell to a company?" And she's like, "What?" I told her about all this stuff last year. And she asked her realtor, like, "I need to know who's buying my house." So she got to meet her, and she discovered it was an individual that was buying it. Yep. Yep. But it's enticing though, because these corporations will come in and offer you like a lot of money and close fast. And so if you're thinking from the 40,000-foot view and the future of humanity, really, I hope that people can turn away those big dollars and wait for an individual that's the right one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that much to ask because, generally speaking, normal home sales go through a process. And so we're all used to it. And so,
It's true.
this new thing of all cash and, close in 15 days, it's not worth it.
Right.
It's just not worth it.
I agree.
Wait a little longer.
Yeah.
And do the right thing. And I also think that, talking to your representatives,
about setting some, you know what? We should do that. We should be contacting whether it's your state or local. Your state reps that are at your state capital, or your national, like U.S. Senate rep, congressional reps. Say, hey, put forth laws to prevent this.
Local action, national impact, right? So somebody said that.
Yep. It's true.
But what's happening is really unprecedented in the last couple decades. It's been slowly building, but man, they're aggressive now.
Yeah.
And so the more people that know and we understand this, we cannot sit back and watch it happen.
Well, the more we do at the local level too.
Pardon?
We can do a lot at the local level.
Absolutely. Because we have to reach out, and we have to, because they're a behemoth and there's no way that we can compete with that.
It's like David versus Goliath. We can do it. We can throw that stone.
We can. We have the numbers, and the people, in government work for us. So,
well, it's not just government. Like I said, your HOA, make sure your bylaws are in place. Purchase land. If you have the means, not everybody has a lot of money or, has that, but it's a great investment to purchase land.
Absolutely.
So if you can, do it. If you can't, obviously it's something, whether it's your HOA purchasing land so that others can't buy it, or even if it's farmland. I know there's different laws in different states. Like if it's zoned agriculturally, then you have to be growing food on it, that kind of stuff. But anyway,
I like that idea.
Yeah. If people have other solutions, we totally want to hear about it. Put it in the comments. We're going to be posting this on Rumble, YouTube. I think I started a Twitch account for us, Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, all of them. Truth Social. Yep. So we've got our links in the scroll at the bottom on Linktree. You can access all of our links. But that pretty much covers all of our content for today. Do you have anything to add or any closing remarks, Carrie?
Just take action. And
yep.
I guess the thing that's the hardest for me is that it's at these entry-level homes for first-time buyers. That's what they're going after.
Yeah.
And it hurts.
It's pretty amazing that they say entry-level homes are over $300,000. That seems really high. But, well, with that, we will have more, I'm sure. We're going to talk more about some of these investment companies. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and play our closer. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you, Nevs.
Bye.
Bye.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright